Welcome back to part 3 of the pink rose and sherbet glass. We're going to continue working on the etching design that's on the sherbet glass. Here I'm using a Derwent number 50 saffron to draw in the pattern and color in the basic petal shapes on the glass. Here I'm using my Carbothello 642 Caput Mortem Violet Light to draw in the design, and using the Carbothello 330 to make the design darker in places, according to how the light strikes it. Outlining the little shapes down there at the bottom of the glass. Now, using the number 50 saffron, I'm just going to color in some more of these shapes. So the 50 saffron is going to be my basic layer, and then using the 642 and the 330 and the Carbothello, I'll come over top of that and accentuate the shapes. I'm continuing to draw in the design on the glass with the number 50 saffron. And adding the texture on that shape and deepening it with the 642 Caput Mortem Violet Light. The center area that we're coloring on top of in the middle of the glass is made with a layer of Conte 51 green gray with white over it. And this is what we're painting on top of. It was added to the center of glass, and we're going to add more of that later as we work down. So you want to add that color first before we add the pattern over the glass. I'm using a 105 ivory Carbothello to lighten the pattern where I see it needs to be. This is a lovely ivory color. I like it for this application better than using the Carbothello 100 white. Here I'm using that little sliver of my eraser to clean up any edges that are not neat. You can take that edge and go over it. And then I'm going over this design with the 105 ivory. Here I'm using the number 50 saffron again, drawing in these little shapes on what is the surface of the glass. Using the 642 Carbothello Caput Mortem violet light to add the little shadow area there on the side of the design. Here I'm using the ivory to draw in the design right over the green gray I put over the center of the glass. And then coloring in the saffron area. So I'm just going to keep doing that with the design. I'm using the saffron number 50 Derwent pencil to draw some highlights down the side of the glass. This is the 105 ivory to make it a little bit lighter. It helps portray the effect of glass, the reflections that would be in the glass. So that's 105 ivory. It really helps to create the realism that we're looking for in this project. I'm switching back and forth between the ivory and the saffron. And here I'm using the 642 Carbothello. And I'm going to use it on the outside edge of the glass as well. I'm lightening this area of reflection with the 105 ivory, going in between the design to make that a bit lighter. I'm drawing in another reflection that is on the front side of the glass. So I'm going right over my design to indicate that it is on the front side of the glass. Here I'm working on the bottom middle area of the glass, and I'm using my number 38 Conte Madder to draw in the pink that is reflected from the rose. I'm also using my number 11 Conte pencil. Adding that beautiful pink color down the side of the glass. We're going to be putting in all these different little shapes that are reflected. This is the Conte number 39 garnet red. So I'm going to darken some of the shapes. They're very abstract, so I'm just putting little bits of color in as I see them on my reference photo. I'm going to brighten up some of those areas with the 100 Carbothello white. By putting it over the pink, it brightens the pink up. I'm going to draw a bright white line of reflection down all the way to the base of the sherbet glass. And punch up the darks a little bit with the Conte number 39. Going to add a bit of dark with Carbothello 330, which is our alizarin crimson type color. And just a little more pink with the number 11 on the side of the glass. It looks very nice. Now switching to the other side with the Conte number 39. I carefully draw down the side. There's not as much reflection on this side as there is on the side next to the rose. After putting in the red, I'm going to come back and add a little bit of madder pink, the Conte pencil number 38, underneath and around the garnet red. This is a rather abstract pattern down at the bottom. It's really pretty though. It just shows, that's why I love painting glass, the different colors and how the light refracts through the glass. I'm using Carbothello 330 to get things a little darker. Little touches of it here and there. The next shape I'm using, coloring in this shape next to the one I just colored with the 310 Carmine Red. I'm brightening up that red with 692 Golden Ochre Light. I'm also adding the Golden Ochre Light, the 692, to the right of that area and going over that with a little 310 Carmine Red. They're really bright together. I'm working upward with these really jagged looking little shapes like a mountain range. They're kind of cool. And this is the 692 Golden Ochre Light. I'm working over to the left, and over that I'm using the 310 Carmine Red over top of it. It makes a, by mixing the yellow and the red together, it gives it an orangey glow. People say you can't mix pastels, but you actually can, because one layer shows through the other. I'm also adding a touch of dark with the Carbothello 330. So when you're doing this kind of painting, just paint what you see. All these little abstract shapes. Kind of disengage your mind and paint what you see, and when viewed together, it will be very realistic. A little more Carmine Red over here on the left side. I'm using the white Carbothello 100 to brighten up a few of these areas. Now I think it needs a little bit of orange, so I've added a color, which is Carbothello 221 Orange. So I'm adding that to the bottom of the glass. Moving up the right side of the glass, I'm using the 221 Carbothello Orange to add the bright orange hue that I see on the side of the glass. We're going to fill in these shapes on the side, right side of the glass, using the 51 Conte gray-green. And over that, we're going to modify that color and lighten it up with the Conte, with the Carbothello 105 Ivory. I'm going over the green with the ivory to lighten up the color a bit. Using a little bit of Carbothello 642 as well in this area. And this is the Conte Garnet Red. And straightening up that edge with the gray-green, number 51. Blending it with my finger occasionally. I'm using the Carbothello 105 Ivory. I'm also going to use the Carbothello 100 to lighten up these areas on the right side of the glass and gently blend it with my finger. Moving over to the left side, I'm using the 105 Ivory and the 100, both Carbothellos, to add these shapes. I've put down the white 100 Carbothello, and underneath that I'm going to use the 330 Carbothello to outline that, create a dark. This all comes together by putting in the darks, putting in the lights, just kind of disengaging your mind from the fact that it's a glass to just looking for those shapes. And this is how we make it look sparkling and realistic. So this is my 105 Carbothello. I'm going to add the little shape underneath the white. And brighten it up just a little with the 100 white. Needs to be a little bit brighter. And now I'm going back to the 105 Ivory. Just continue to add little shapes as you see them using the different colors that you have. Here I'm using the 105 and the 100 Carbothello. There are some leaves reflected through the glass. We're going to put those in. Now I'm using Carbothello 575, and I'm going to color in this jagged edge of the leaf that we can see reflected in this glass. So we can see through the glass actually. So I'm outlining it first, and then I'm going to color it in. I'm outlining the shape. I'm going to use a variety of greens to color this leaf in. So I'm starting out with 575. I'm going to go darker with Carbothello 595. And then I'm also going to use 585 to finish up coloring this leaf shape with. In this light area, I'm using 575 to color in that shape. And I'm switching back to the 595, which is the darker green with Carbothello, and just finger blending those colors in. And to lighten up this area, I'm blending a little bit of Golden Ochre Light 692 Carbothello over the greens. I'm going back to my 575. Just help blend these colors together. Now, this is the 750 Black Carbothello on that top edge. And now I'm using 560 Carbothello, which is leaf green pale. This is a great color. So that adds a nice bright spark. Just kind of lightly using it to blend areas, but then pushing harder over in these shapes to get the color in. And I'm using Carbothello 575 over top of that green. The 560 that we just put down. The leaf green pale. I'm using Carbothello 585 to add a darker color into the pale leaf green that we put in earlier. Now I'm going to use the 595, the very darkest Carbothello green, and add some darker accents of color. I'm adding another color now. This is a Pitt pastel pencil, and the color number is 173 olive green. It's a really good pencil, and I needed another green to go with the ones that I had. Pitt pencils are harder than most pencils, most pastel pencils, and they have some really good colors. They're a great set to have, particularly if you like to color animals. They have more colors designed for that. I'll continue to use this olive green 173 Pitt pencil where I see the little shapes that need this dark shade of green. This olive green is a little more olive and a little darker than the Carbothellos. It works very well. I'm using my 750 Carbothello Black to darken little areas where they need it. The black and the black is good for darkening over other colors, and the white is good for lightening. So you can see this makes it just a little bit darker. Now I'm switching over to the Carbothello 575 to finish up that area at a medium value of green. So just go back and forth between the different shades of green that you have. And the most important thing is to get the right value of green. This is the 692 Carbothello Golden Ochre Light. It's adding that, lightening up that area, adding that beautiful shade of light. Adding a touch of 100 white, but I'm using the same colors as you can see. And this is the golden ochre again, adding bright areas next to the red and next to the green. Just filling in all these little abstract shapes. I'm going to brighten that up with the 100 Carbothello white. Now down in this bottom area, this last shape, I'm using the Carbothello 645 Kaput Mortem Red. And I'm coloring in that shape. And then I'm going to lighten it by putting 692 Golden Ochre Light over top of it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of ivory, 105, and a little bit of 100 white. So you can see I'm just lightly applying that and finger blending it. Now when we want to add a brighter highlight, we need a softer, more pigmented pastel. So for that, I'm going to use the edge of my Rembrandt 100.5 white right in this area to put a brighter highlight on the glass. Back to finishing the design on the glass. Used a little 105 ivory to brighten up some of those edges, and I'm going to use the 642 Carbothello to outline the design. I think these are little leaves, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what we're using to make them come to life. Here I have the Saffron 50 Derwent. Adding a little bit of green there with the pit pencil. Here I'm using my 105 Carbothello pencil to draw in the water line on the glass. Make sure you create an accurate ellipse. This isn't a circle, it is an ellipse. Now I'm going to put a darker line on the top of, on the front, the rim that's in the front. I'm using 330 Carbothello, and now I've switched to a brighter red, which is the 39 Conte Pencil Garnet Red. And then we're going to change the color again to the 38 Madder Pink as we come around to the other side. It's very pretty. Now I'm using a 305 Carbothello, which is vermilion, which is a little more orangey red, to also highlight the edge of the water in the glass. On the back edge, I'm using the Pitt 173 Olive Green to indicate the surface of the water in the glass, just very lightly. And I'm going to use 100 Carbothello white to go under this edge in the front. And add some highlights on top of the water, and also draw the line through where the design is, because we want to keep the design looking like it's on the outside of the water. Using the 100 Rembrandt, I'm making that highlight on the glass much brighter. Adding a little more green, this time using Carbothello 585. My eraser to take some color off. And flick away that with my finger. I've outlined this bottom shape at the base of the sherbet glass with Carbothello 221 orange, and I'm filling in the area with the 173 olive green Pitt pastel pencil. I'm using black 750 to darken that area after I finish adding the green. And then to brighten it, I'll use 560 leaf green. And on the very right hand outside edge, I'm going to use Carbothello 100 white to add a bright light. Now at the little shape that's underneath the one we just completed, I'm using the 173 Pitt to add dark green color. I'm going to use the tip of my black 750 to darken it a little further. I'm also going to add a touch of red with the carmine red, which is 310, and then bright pink with the 38 madder pink, and continue to add that for the rim at the very, very, very base of the glass. And I'm going to add a little dimension to that rim by using the Conte Garnet Red number 39 to add a little dark at the base of it and create that effect of it rolling downward. I'm adding a little white highlight with 100 Carbothello. In the front, down at the base, I'm using 221 orange to add a highlight there. And I'm adding the brightest highlights with a very sharp 100 Carbothello. It really helps this glass to sparkle. I'm going to add darks with Carbothello 330, just around that edge. Now we're going to add the base of the sherbet glass. I'm using my Conte pencil number 38 to add color in the front. This will be the most intense area where the light comes through from the back, because the light source is in the back, and it's going to throw the shadows and reflections forward and slightly to the right. So I'm going to lighten up that color with the Carbothello 100. Make that bright area of light and smooth it with my finger. Now using a soft pastel, which is a Rembrandt 318.8 Carmine, I'm going to add color to both sides of the sherbet glass. Just going to fill that in and then blend it. Now I'm going to speed this up a bit while I apply this color and blend it together. I'm using the Conte number 11 pink to add the color to the back of the glass. It's a little cooler. The shadow falls from the rose onto this part of the glass. So I'm going to make this a little cooler by using the pink Conte pencil. I'm adding some Carbothello white 100 over that to blend it together. And blend that with my finger. I decided to put a little 105 ivory over that to warm it up, brighten it up a little bit. Also, the application of additional layers of color makes it, fills in the tooth and helps the color to be more vibrant. I'm going to blend it with my little blender. I'm adding in a little more color with the Conte 38 Madder Pink, especially around this edge where it gets a little warmer. And then I'm going to darken the shadow under the petal of the rose using a Carbothello 330. I'm going to darken the edge of the rim with the 330 as it comes out from underneath the rose around to the front of the sherbet glass. And now I'm going to put a highlight in with 692 Golden Ochre Light Carbothello. I'm adding a touch of orange with the 221 Carbothello right in that front area. I'm darkening the rim on the left side and a little bit on the right side with the 750 Carbothello Black. And adding the brightest light with the 100.5 Rembrandt. Adding two bright highlights with a Rembrandt as well on the left side. Blending them with my blender. And I'm using the Rembrandt to add white to where the strongest highlight is, which is right in front and slightly to the right, where the light shines through the glass, and blending that with my blender as well. I'm going to add a little more till I get it as bright as I want it to be. And blending it. I'm adding a little bit of 692 golden ochre light to that center light as well. Darkening the bottom of the rim with the 330 Carbothello. Darkening the right back edge of the bottom of the glass with the Pitt 173 olive green. There is a reflection of green into the glass back there. So we're going to add that reflection with some of our green colors. We're going to use 685 and 575 Carbothello to put green, just a little bit of pale green, into the back edge of that glass. I'm going to go a little darker with 585 over top and maybe a little 595. Just gradually going darker with the greens. I'm using the Pitt 173 olive green to outline the leaf that is behind the sherbet glass. Fill in the leaf with the 173 Pitt olive green. Using Carbothello 575, which is a lighter mid-value green, and Carbothello 585, add layers of green over the leaf. Using 570 Carbothello, draw the center line of the leaf and kind of blend it with your finger. And we're going to add a shadow under that center line with 595 Carbothello. That just helps pop it out and give it dimension. So we're going to shade a little bit with 595. And that's the center vein of our leaf. Use 750 black to darken it a little further, the back side of the leaf and along the vein of the leaf. Using Conte 42 Sepia, which is a dark gray-green, we're going to darken that leaf a little bit more on the left back side and also at the bottom next to the glass. And using 575 Carbothello, add a little more color to that area. Lighten the leaf on the right hand side by using the Carbothello 575. I'm going to go a little bit lighter using the Carbothello 570. Draw in the veins of the leaf using the Carbothello 570. Use 692 along the bottom edge of the leaf to add the bright light area. We're going to add the shadow of the leaf that's cast on the table with 595 Carbothello. So I'm carefully outlining it, and then I'm going to add the color it in with that 595 carefully. After blending the leaf with your little sponge applicator, use the 38 matter Conte pencil to outline that back edge. I'm going to add a little more color to the shadow with 595 Carbothello, making it a little darker. We're going to need an even darker color, so I'm going to use the 173 Pitt Pastel Olive Green. I'm also adding the Conte Sepia pencil, number 42, to add a little more darkness to that area. Right up next to the glass. The shadow is always darker right up to at the edge of the object that casts the shadow. So it's going to be darker next to the glass and then lighter as it moves out away from the glass. Now let's finish the reflection. of the sherbet glass onto the table. So using Madder Pink, Conte number 38, I'm going to sketch out the reflection that's cast onto the table. So I'm just lightly sketching in this color. Now to brighten this color, on top of it, I'm going to add a 692 golden ochre light. I'll blend those together, and then on top of that I'm going to add some brighter color with the Rembrandt 100.5 white pastel, and we're going to blend that in. For a little more color, I'm adding the Rembrandt Carmine 318.8 over what we've put down, and I'm using my blender to blend that in. Make sure that your color is straight, that your lines are straight. Adding a little more white, make it a little more brilliant, and blending that with my sponge applicator as well. I'll keep doing this until I get it exactly like I want it. Blending those together, and I'll add more colors as needed. I'm going to use my white Carbothello 100 pencil to add some sharp, bright white highlights on the rim. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I have. I'm going to add a shadow with 330 Carbothello. If you'd like to see more projects like this, please go to kwit.com. Thanks for watching.